And now I'd like to introduce our keynote speaker, Bob Faw, and ask him to come up front. Prepare to enjoy good-natured humor, lots of positive energy. Bob is the Chief Energizing Officer at Matchbox Group, an expert in positive change, and author of Energized, and has enough energy in his little pinky to wake us all up this morning like a double espresso. Bob has keynoted at the New Hampshire Foster Parents Conference. He's energized many groups across DCYF, including last year's conference. The work that we do is near and dear to his heart, so he's delighted to come up and spend some more time sharing tips and ideas and having a good time with us. Please join me in welcoming Bob Faw.
Thank you. Oh, you're fantastic. Haven't even got started yet. You're wonderful people. Good morning, everybody. Thank you both for responding. Let's try that again. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Fantastic. And I want to say, before I get started with my speech, thank you. Thank you for the work that you do. I mean, Brandon's story, holy smoke. I have goosebumps on goosebumps. And the parent's story, holy smoke, that's amazing. This is the work that you're doing. You are transforming lives. You are making a difference, an amazing difference. And it's so exciting watching it. When I first started working with DCYF a few years ago, 3-4 years ago I think it was, and it was really exciting because at that point in time people were saying, hey, we're trying this solution focus approach. We're trying to really work in connection and collaboration more with parents. We're looking more and more at the effect of trauma on people, less judging, more understanding. And I said, this sounds incredible. Already you're good. And you've already made such a difference. You jumped forward so far. I think you deserve tons and tons of thank you. And I'll tell you something, particularly as I was listening to Brandon speak there. So when I was his age, I lived in Chicago, very different neighborhood, more people in my city than in the state. But I could have desperately used your help. My family was in tatters. It was such a mess. And the more I hear the stories here, I'm thinking, wow, I wish that I could have entered into the DCYF program. And I wish that it was my mother up here speaking about having changed her life. That would have been phenomenal. Because I tell you something, when I grew up, I had to then go out and transform myself on my own as an adult. But you know, of course, we can't do it alone. Isn't that right? Raise your hand if you have transformed something in your life. Raise your hand if you have transformed something in your life. Okay, if you haven't raised your hand yet, it's not too late. As long as you're breathing, you have time to transform something. There's a couple of people back there saying, yeah, I'm perfectly good the way I am. That's fine. Stay there then. Although I do find one of the most exciting things about life is getting better and better over time. Igniting passion in people, in families, in colleagues, in other groups that you work with. Improving the performance of your employees, of your colleagues, of the families. We can always get better and better at that. Now, I'm just so overwhelmed. This is not something I actually planned to do, but I was just thinking, you all deserve so many thank yous that I would like to do 2 things around that. So one is, what I want you to do is just take a moment, go in your own head, and I want you to think about all the people in this room that help you to do your job well. The people that provide services, that provide training, that provide support, that provide money, that hire you. Whatever it might be, the people that do the things that you need. So think about all the people. And the people like Brandon and our speaker who, without them, we wouldn't be enthusiastic about it, right? It would be just a chore. But you need these success stories to keep you going, to energize you, to see that every single person has hope. Everybody in this room is responsible for the success of DCYF. So what I want you to do right now is think about some of those people And then when I say go, for those of you, by the way, that are really shy, you can just pretend to do this. Okay? It's up to you. I want you to stay within, stretch your comfort zone, but not, don't have to go too far. But what I'm going to ask you to do, I got some worried looks over here. Wait a second. This is not like the last time where I had people dancing on the tables, okay? It's different. Okay. We had a really good time at the Sununu Center. We're dancing on the pews, doing all kinds of fun stuff. All right, I'm exaggerating. But we had a good time anyway. So here's what's going to happen. When I say go, I would like you to do 3 things. Stand up. Go to 3 people who are not sitting at your table. And I want you to say thank you in whatever way you feel like doing. So for example, you may say, hey, thank you so much. Let me give you a high five. Nice. Or you may go up to somebody and say, hey, thank you so much. And she looks very adventurous. Like, all right, hip bump. You got to be really careful who you do that hip bump with, folks. Elbow. Right, there we go. Or somebody else, if you know her and you just think she's the most wonderful person on the planet, which I think you probably are in the top 5. Yeah. I love this. She says, yeah, it's true. Then you say, thank you. Can I give you a hug? Awesome. So whatever means you use, it has to be okay with both parties, right? We know how that works. That's why I asked first. So when I say go 3 people not at your table, you're going to get up, you're going to thank them in some way that feels good to you, whatever words work for you. Are you ready? Are you ready in the back? Okay, you just sit and look grumpy. That's okay. All right, ready and go! That means have a seat. Go ahead and make your way back to your seat, please. Wow, so much excitement out there. Thank the person you're with and go have a seat. Thank the person you're with, go have a seat. Woo! I tell you what, folks, I am brought in to energize people. Oh, yeah. And you all are energizing me, especially you. Especially you. Now, folks, I'm recognizing a lot of faces here. And if we can, I have a loud voice, but not that loud, so shh. There we go. Oh, the hugs are still going. By the way, I would like to recommend that in between each workshop today, try to thank 3 more people, at least. Keep it going. And let me tell you something. This is not just feel good in the moment. There is solid scientific research that shows that thanking people has multiple effects that are really good for you and for the people that you're thanking. I bet you already know some of this. But one of the key things is gratitude is one of the most powerful ways, regular gratitude, to increase your own happiness. Saying thank you to other people, sincere gratitude, makes you happier. It also, by the way, changes your biochemistry. It changes your biochemistry so that I'm going to get really scientific here for just a moment, your parasympathetic nervous system kicks in and your immune system is more active. So you actually can be healthier. Plus, there's been some really cool research, which is both scary and exciting, depends on how you look at it, but both optimism and pessimism are contagious. They spread. So when you purposely look for things that are beautiful in the world, people that are doing wonderful things, even if it's the small, normal things they do every day, but it makes things good, and you thank them for that, it spreads. Right? We all know that, right? We all know that works. And the same thing with the negative. We have to be careful about that because that spreads as well. Oh, by the way, I wanted to introduce you. Actually, a number of people have probably heard this bowl before. Who has been to one of my presentations in the past? And you still showed up. I really appreciate that, everybody. So those who have, you've experienced this. And by the way, I may talk about some things that those who've been to previous presentations have heard. So your responsibility, that is twofold. Get even better at the things I'm talking about. And two, help others who are new to this to learn. But I want to introduce you to this Tibetan bowl. It's a meditation bowl. It's really cool. And the nice thing about it is you can kind of hear it even while people are talking. Have to be careful about how close it gets there. Okay. So when you hear that, that's a sign that you want to start wrapping up whatever conversation you might be having, because we're going to have a couple different interactive pieces here. And then you sort of come back, look forward, and you actually have two choices at that point. You either get quiet and listen to me, or you go into a Tibetan trance. It's up to you. Whatever works. As long as you don't chant, things like that. Okay. So, now, here's one of the interesting things. When I first started doing this 25 years ago, I was learning all these cool things about how to go out, how to help people, how to help get the way our brain works to work better, to motivate ourselves. And I started going out and telling people. And every once in a while, I'd tell somebody, and they'd go, yeah, I know that. Or here's how I do it. And I'm like, oh. And there's a big humbling aha moment for me, which is that maybe people don't know all the technical stuff that I'm saying, but they already know a lot about motivation. So we're going to tap into that. In the last 10 years, I started changing my approach and saying, wait a second, not just telling you what's the good information, but you telling each other. You telling me. Particularly with the success that you have. I mean, the numbers, the way things are going up and down, yeah, whatever. The good stuff's going up, the bad stuff's going down. Yeah, I'm not really good at the detail stuff, am I? Okay, but it's very impressive to watch and very impressive to hear Maggie Bishop talk about that as well. Really moved me deeply to hear that. Particularly because I love New Hampshire. It's my home state now. So, you're going to share with each other a number of times. So what I want you to do right now is at your table, if there's somebody that you can be a partner with to have a conversation with. Now, here's the key thing. You may have a third person if you have an odd number. It's up to you to decide who's the odd person at your table. She's pointing. She's the odd one. But no more than 3, because I want to have each person have enough airtime. Right? If there's 4 or 5 people talking, some people just don't get to talk. Because I give you very short time frames for talking. So what I want you to do is with a partner at your table, or 2, if they're, all right, he's kind of odd, so the 3 of you, all right. He's like, how did he know? Now, I want you to talk about what do you already do to energize yourself? Because here's the thing, folks, with all your knowledge, with all your education, it's the attitude that you walk in with that probably has the most difference. And I keep referring to our speaker before, and I've forgotten her name. Can somebody remind me? Salissa? Alyssa. Thank you. I love when 12 people say it at one time. It sounds like Alyssa, thank you. Was beautiful, right? So Alyssa says, hey, I trusted my social worker, so I trusted her enough to go to this training. That trust is more important than the content of the training, isn't it? Because without that trust, you're not going to bother. You're not going to be open. So what do you do to energize yourself in the morning? Whether you're a service provider so that you can build that trust, whether you're a parent and you want to jump in and be a better parent, whether you're in the system and you're becoming a very tall and dignified looking young man, whatever it is, however you contribute to the system. Whether you're one of these folks that has to do the uncomfortable step of putting a boundary in place, of arresting or training or guiding. What do you do to energize yourself so that when you do it, you're having a positive influence? You're setting the tone. So like what Alyssa experienced is someone can then come back to you and say, thank you for that. That was both the worst and the best day of my life. Was that incredible? Can we just give her another big round of applause, everybody? Wow. Wow. Woo. Literally, I was like shaking as I was listening to her talk, thinking, that's just a beautiful story. So chat with the partner at your table. What do you do to energize yourself so that you can be that kind of good influence? I'm going to give you, not a long time, 72 seconds for this conversation. Go. Okay. Woo! Good conversations out there. Love it. Love it. So, I would love it if 3 brave volunteers would share something that they do to energize themselves, and I will then repeat it back to the crowd. Who's willing to share something? Yes, sir. Brandon.
I love to just make people happy. I'm a kind of a jokester, so I just love to, swing some jokes around at school and, make my friends laugh. Just making people smile is just kind of the best thing for me.
Nice. Ed, could you hear him back there in the corner? All right, so I would tell you, he said he loves making people smile. And I love the way he said it. I like swinging some jokes around at school. Just love that casual kind of attitude. I used to do improv comedy, Brandon, so I used to swing them jokes around. You could join me next time. That was fantastic. Thank you, sir. And by the way, first time speaking in front of a crowd this size, and now speaking up again. Another round of applause for Brandon. Put it there, my friend. Put it there. Yeah. Yes. Looking for career opportunities? My job, okay? My job in a few years. Yes.
Mine is hanging out with my daughter, my 7-year-old daughter.
Hanging out with your 7-year-old daughter. Wow. Oh, very sweet. Okay, one more here, yes.
Listening to worship music in the morning.
Listening to worship music in the morning. Powerful. Now you notice we're all unique, right? Everybody has their own way of doing it. Whatever works for you. I was talking to somebody the other day, he said, oh yeah, I love that heavy metal rock on the way to work. And I was like, really? That would kill my brain. But for him it works. So it's learning what works for you, what energizes you, what puts you in that wonderful space where you can be that positive influence and energize the people around you. Beautiful. And it's really important that we have to do this, that we focus on doing this intentionally. Let me tell you a little bit why. So some people have heard this story before, but our brains have what is called a negativity bias. If you look over here on the second banner, it's a natural negativity bias. If you can't read that in the back, it says we have a natural negativity bias. It's a survival trait to see more negativity than actually is there and remember it longer. And there's a good reason for that, by the way. There's a really good reason. I want you to imagine our ancestors many years ago going for a hike through the jungle after an unsuccessful hunt. And they're looking and they're talking, and one of them, I'm going to call this one, there's 3 siblings, I'm going to call this one the caveman, because he represents that very primal, primeval. By the way, you can replace cave woman if you prefer. All right? Walking through the jungle. And this guy's constantly looking for threats. What's out there? What's dangerous? What might eat me? All right, the other one, the second one, I'm going to call the thinker. That's an ancestor of ours that was much more cerebral, thinking logically, analyzing the hunt, figuring out how we can do it next time, paying almost no attention to his surroundings. The third one I'm going to call the artist. And by the way, if you're trying to remember these, they're actually up over here. And later on, I'm going to put an interactive PDF online on the website that actually you can read about these things and click on the links to go to videos about them and all that. So you get more Bob Fall for free if you want later on. The third one is the artist. So the artist, she's more thoughtful and clever and creative. She's thinking, oh, next time we hunt that big old woolly mammoth, I'm going to make a really big net. The butterfly net just didn't quite hack it. And they're going through the jungle, and at one point, they're rounding a corner. And little do they know there are two surprises around that corner. On the left side are some pears in the tree, lunch. On the right side, hidden in the bushes, is a saber-toothed tiger looking for lunch. As they come around the corner, the artist immediately sees the pears, goes, yum, yum, pears, I'm going to go pick some pears. The caveman sees the bushes rattling, immediately runs up the tree, boom, 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 climbs. The artist is laughing at the caveman as the tiger pounces. The thinker didn't even notice anything happen until he was pounced upon as well. Later that night, the caveman is back in his cave alone, doing what cavemen do to pass on their genes. I don't want to get too explicit. We have some young folks here. But the artist and the thinker didn't make it. Now here's the thing, folks. Our genes are passed down because the ones who are the most paranoid often survive the longest, enough to pass on their genes. Now, our ancestors that survived also had to have the intellect, the logic of the thinker, the creativity of the artist. But the caveman part of the brain, and for those that are into brain science, the limbic system back here, is far more powerful than the other two. It can take over at any time. It's constantly scanning for threats and danger everywhere we go, which is fantastic when you're in the jungle. Not so good when you're meeting a family for the first time. Right? If you're going into a home and you're meeting a family for the first time and your brain's going, oh yeah, I'm sure she's a terrible person. I'm sure she's doing really bad. And of course, as you're walking in, what is she thinking? She's going to come, or he's going to come judge me. She's going to really think that I'm terrible. All these bad things are going to happen. You're going to take my babies from me forever. Right? All these stories going on in our minds. That's what I call inner movies. Like these inner movies are playing. We haven't even talked yet. We've already decided the other person is an evil villain from another planet or something. We have to overcome these negativity biases within ourselves and within other people. Those are natural, normal negativity biases because guess what? In some places, people do come take their children away forever, or they are terrible. So the brain is wired to be careful for that. So how do you convince somebody? How do you help them know that you are a mother that wants to get better, or that you are a caregiver that wants to help, or that you are someone in a security situation there to keep them safe until they learn how to be safe on their own? How do you convince people of that? And I'm going to give you a hint right now. It is not behaving like a caveman that does that. Now what I want you to do with your partner again at your table, and this time when you hear the bowl, really do stop talking. With the partner at your table or partners, I want you to think about where do you find your negativity bias kicking in at work? And by the way, of course this happens at home too, doesn't it? As a matter of fact, the thinker part of our brain gets tired easily, and we're exhausted by the end of the day. When we get home, the thinker part of our brain, which is the prefrontal cortex area, is exhausted at trying to keep the caveman from acting up. So it's actually 10 times harder to prevent yourself from saying something stupid and hurtful at home than it is in the morning. Right? In the evening, it's much harder. So I want you to be gentle with yourself, but also learn to get even better at energizing yourself before you get home. But let's come back to your negativity bias. By the way, if you're really embarrassed about your biggest negativity bias at work, just share another one. It's up to you. I want you to be comfortable with this conversation. But I want you to share, here's the negativity bias that kicks up for you. So I'll give you an example. I'll get vulnerable first. I speak all over the world, and every time I speak, I get feedback, of course. And I find that when someone comes up with some negative feedback, that my cave and wants to start swinging its club. Or usually wants to go run and hide in a cave. So big ego, but not so good at taking negative feedback at times. I have to work on that. I have to really work on that so that I can take it well. So what do? Right? So I take deep breaths. I force myself to calm down, come back, and balance it out with the positive feedback. That's what I do to rebalance it. Right? So we have to rebalance with more positives in order to change our brain chemistry. So with your partners, you're going to discuss where you find a negativity bias coming up for yourself and how do you rebalance it. By the way, if you don't currently rebalance it, get some help. or ask your partner, can you give me some ideas? I want better ideas. This is a little deeper conversation, so I'm going to give you 138 seconds to identify a negativity bias and how you overcome it. Make sure both people get to talk. And go. Things going well? Awesome. Wow. That was wonderful. I have a hard time seeing everybody in the back, so I was wandering through the crowd and just listening. And here's the cool thing. I've learned at this point in time, I don't actually have to hear the words to understand the tone of the conversation. I could just see by people's facial expression and the thoughtfulness and the intent that there's a lot of wisdom being shared. It was really beautiful. So, once again, I love hearing from the crowd because I can tell you here's the key things, but you can say here's what I do in real life for me. So let's see. So I went to this group of 4. Let's come over here. 3 people would be willing to share. What do you do to rebalance your negativity bias? And you don't have to share the negativity bias if you don't want to. Who would be willing to share? Yes, ma'am.
Participating in these kind of workshops and being involved with the division.
Nice, nice. She said participating in anything involving Bob Fall. Oh, wait, you didn't say that, did you? She just said these types of workshops and being involved with a division. Getting out. And these things rejuvenate, don't they? It's really important to have those moments of rejuvenation. All right, who's next? Yes. Oh, all right. Didn't have to go far.
Yeah, really. Spending quality time of just cuddling with my kids.
Spending quality time of just cuddling with your kids. Oh, I just want to hug now, but we'll do it later. Okay, all right, we'll do. Yes. Yeah, just yell it. Go ahead.
Celebrate your victories, no matter how small.
Yes. In case you didn't hear it, celebrate your victories no matter how small. And by the way, this is incredibly important. It's similar to the gratitude. When you celebrate your own victories, no matter how small, it does the same thing. It boosts you up and it rebalances yourself. And I don't know about you, but I know when I was younger, I had a really strong negativity bias. I mean, I walked around thinking, oh, I'm just terrible. I'm not good at life. I'm not a good person. And when I started saying, well, here is what I am good at. Here's what I can do. It gave me that little bit of motivation to try a little bit harder. Now, we're not talking about I'm better than everybody else. I'm better than you. We're not talking about that. We're just talking about celebrating those successes, feeling good about it, talking about it. As a matter of fact, I want to share a technique with you that has transformed my relationship. So my sweetheart, her name is Zsuzsi. She's from Hungary. Oh, who said, "Aw"? Isn't that sweet? Hungary is such a lovable country. So Zsuzsi and I, we started this thing about 6 years ago. Because I would come, this is back when we were just dating, and I would come over to visit her. And like a lot of couples, what do you think the first things that we talked about right after work were? Work. And what about work? Yeah, the bad stuff, the venting. And it was this weird thing where we were doing this, and I was finding myself sometimes saying, I don't have the energy to go visit her. And that's when I thought, okay, wait a second. That's not what I want to have happen. Let me pull into the positive change toolkit, the energized tools. What can we do in our relationship to make it more energizing to be together? Because here's the thing. Juji was raised in Hungary. In Hungary, you do not say good things about yourself. It's considered bad. Bad form, conceited. I was raised the same way, although it clearly didn't stick. So we came up with this thing, which we called the daily highlights. Yes! Awesome. Is it phenomenal or what? Best thing ever. And for the other 399 people that don't know what it is, let me tell you. And no, are you kidding me? I love it. Jump in. Share. I love it. Celebrate it. She does it. Let's give her a round of applause, everybody. Woo! Yes! For those who already know me, you don't have to apologize. I love this interaction. So it's a very simple technique, and you can use this with your kids. You can use it with your partner. You can use it with your colleagues. One of my clients she was part-time restaurant. She was a waitress part-time, and she had a colleague who was constantly complaining. It was driving her bananas. And she only saw her every Saturday. So the next Saturday after she learned this technique, she tried it out, and it changed the dynamic. And it's very simple. What was your highlight today? If it's a daily exercise, or if it's a weekly exercise, or since your last meeting, what was your highlight? Some moment or some experience that you felt was the best. That's the only criterion. You can choose what it means to be a highlight. It just has to be good. And I tell you what it did for me and Juji. It was very powerful. It was a slow, subtle thing, and it got more and more powerful the longer we did it. And what happened is, I started to realize, because all of a sudden now she was telling me about the good experiences she was having, the successes that she was experiencing. And in the back of my mind, I started thinking, wow, she's pretty good at what she does. And I didn't realize that up to that point. I thought, she can't be very good if all she has is bad experiences. I wasn't consciously thinking that, but it was slowly building. But it gave her a chance. Someone who came from a culture where you're not supposed to say good things, now she wasn't bragging, she was sharing a highlight. 2 years later, she's a therapist, mental health counselor. Awesome. And she decided to start her own practice. I can tell you right now, if we had not been doing the highlights, I would not have supported her. I would not have had the confidence in her to do it. But when she said she wanted to do it, I said, of course you can. She says, what do you mean? I says, well, remember, you've had several people you've told me about who said that you were the best therapist they had. You had people that came back and said you changed their life. She said, oh, yeah, but that was just a few people. But I was able to reflect it back to her. And she got it. And probably even more importantly, is I wanted to go visit her more. And I will tell you something else that's really been nice about this, is that we have an agreement. First of all, I've got to tell you, we hug first, which is nice. Picked that up from a couples a weekend retreat we went to. That was a really cool thing. So we hug 4 times a day. First thing in the morning, right before we depart, right as soon as we get back together, and last thing before we go to sleep. Yeah, it's really, really awesome. Yeah, it's actually going to be next April in Brazil. Thank you for asking. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. You're all invited. We're going to be a small houseboat in the Amazon jungle. It'll fit 400 people easily. The other cool thing I realized that what came about was that when we were done sharing the highlights, a lot of the things that we used to vent about, we no longer felt like saying. We didn't want to ruin the mood. So what I want you to do is chat with your partner now, particularly if he's reading a magazine or a program, and I want you to say, where can I use this highlight in my life to be even happier and more positive and more energizing than I already am? We're only going to give you 38 seconds for this one. Go. Okay. Whew. If you feel like raising your hand for this, you do so. If you don't, do it anyway. Just kidding. Don't. Raise your hand if you were talking about using it at home. Who would like to use this at home? It's fantastic. A woman came up to me at one of my workshops. She said, 4 years ago, I was at a workshop you did, and my daughter was dying of an eating disorder. And her and my son and I, all we did was fight. And I thought, this will never work, but what the heck, I'll give it a try. And she started doing it. And she said, over time, I mean, obviously there was other factors involved, but over time, this seemed to start giving her daughter more confidence, more a sense of self-esteem, if you will. She said a few months later, she was able to ask her mother for help, get some help. Now, 4 years later, both her kids are grown, successful, out on their own, and call her every day to talk about their highlight. Yeah, I literally started crying right there in the room. I was like, oh my gosh. Wow. Okay, who would like to use this at work? Was somebody in your work situation? A lot of folks. All right. Who thinks their life is way too happy as it is and don't want to have any more joy? You got one person over there. She's like, I have no more time for happiness. My cheeks really hurt. Yeah. Don't want to get those smile lines. Okay. I'm going to give you another tip. Earlier I talked about inner movies, right? So there's a little bit on this banner for those that can't read in the back corner, particularly because it's behind a bush. We talk about being an inner movie director, right? So we're always having these inner movies, right? It says there's stories that play in our minds that motivate us for good or bad results. So for example, you're about to meet with somebody and in your mind you're thinking, oh, this is so stressful. You're right, oh, this is going to be so difficult. And if I walk in there, she's just going to, totally chew me up and spit me out. And as I walk in, what is she seeing? She's not seeing smile if I'm thinking that. She's seeing dread, stress, judgment, and therefore she reacts to that. So our inner movie has a really powerful effect. On the drive in here today, I kept playing inner movies of people that I've met here at DCYF that I love, that I've had so many great experiences with. And I think about the beautiful work that you do, the things that you make a difference. And I played those inner movies because by the time I get in here, I was totally excited. And then, of course, I got to watch these wonderful speakers, which played beautiful inner movies. So by the time I got up here, I was really pumped up. So here's the thing. Our brains are always playing these inner movies. At night, we call them dreams. During the day, they might be planning, thinking about the past, the woulda, coulda, shouldas. I wish I had done that. I could have done that. I remember this. You ever notice that sometimes it plays all by itself? I was laying awake last night, and all of a sudden I was thinking about a friend I knew 10 years ago. Then I was thinking about this thing. Then I was thinking about this morning. My inner movie's all over the place. And it is constantly affecting the way those three characters, the caveman, artist, and thinker, behave. Every time you have an inner movie of something scary, the caveman starts worrying about survival, even if it's a small thing. Now, for those that are wondering, yeah, is an inner movie really that big of a deal? Let me tell you something. Number one fear in America, according to Gallup poll in 2008, was what? Any guesses? Public speaking. Okay? Death was number 8. By the way, how many people do you know who have died from public speaking? Broken a leg, caught the flu, nothing. But why are we so terrified? Well, not all of us, of course. Some of us are lunatic like me. I love it. But why are most people afraid of public speaking? Because of the inner movies that our brain plays. It's very powerful. I was about to do a presentation one time and someone said, oh, good luck, Bob. I can't hold their attention for 10 minutes. All of a sudden, my inner movie went south. I thought everybody was going to be reading their program, checking their voicemail, walking out, ignoring me. And I'm walking up the stage, and instead of looking like a fun place, I thought it was like, someplace with a hangman's noose. And I was like, oh my gosh. And then halfway there, I said, wait a second. I can influence this. And I started playing back a memory of a few months before when I'd been in Dallas and the crowd was really excited. And afterwards, somebody said to me, "Thank you, Bob. I'm going to be a better leader and a better parent." Wow. Just by playing that memory, by the time I got on stage, I was excited again. So we influence our inner movies. So I want you to think right now of somebody that you work with that you need to influence, that you need to energize. You need to help this person or family or people or team or boss. You need to help them feel excited about moving forward, feel some hope, feel some trust. What can you tell yourself before you talk to them? I'm going to give you one hint. Good things about that person is a really helpful one. Very big. Hope for their future is another one. And then also, how do you introduce that to them so they have that as well, so that you can direct their inner movies? It starts from within, and then it goes out. So think about that one person or group that you really want to influence even better than you already do. I'm going to give you a little bit more time with your partner to talk about how do you do that? What might you say to yourself? What memory or image might you play in your inner movie? What might you say to them to help them as well? 212 seconds, I think. I don't know. I don't ever look at my watch. We'll see. Go. Oh. Thank your partner. Look to the front. Or say Om. So there was some really good wisdom. I was just chatting with this table over here. And Maggie Bishop and Bob. Love the name, by the way. Good name. We were just talking about how it can take time to make the changes. The longer that we have been habituated to acting out our caveman or cavewoman, the harder it is to change, right? This is not like a turnaround magical thing. It takes time. But if you could get into that habit, you can gradually get out. And same thing, like sometimes people turn a lot faster than others, but really be patient if you can. If someone has been stuck in that caveman mode for a long time, it's harder to change. And I'll tell you something. I do volunteer work with an organization called Vital Cycles. Works with trauma survivors. I'm very passionate about that. Having been through a lot of trauma in my life and having transformed much of it myself, I like to pass it on. It's very gratifying. So it takes time, right? So some of the folks that I started working with 5 years ago, when I say working with, I'm not talking about for money, but it pays in here. Some of them were transforming their lives within a few months. Some have, I feel like they've only moved forward a couple of yards on the marathon race. But back to the very wise input from back here, which is celebrate every step. If you're frustrated because someone's not changing fast enough, celebrate what they are doing. Because I'm going to tell you right now, frustration with them for not doing it doesn't help. Right? Because that's your cave woman or caveman back, triggering their cave woman or caveman. So, here's the key thing, folks. We've had a great conversation today, a lot of great energy in this room. I've been incredibly excited about the things that people have been saying and doing and really making it happen. Now, the emotions rise up, they help shift us a little bit, then they kind of dry down, right? They fade down a little bit. So I want you to think of all the things that we talked about today. What is the one thing? What is the one thing that you will definitely do, you commit to doing when you get back to work? Monday for most of you, whatever that is. But what is the one thing? And I'm going to give you a hint on this. The way the human brain works, it takes 30 days of doing something to develop it into a habit. It takes 10,000 times of doing it to be a master at it. You already are masters at helping people. So it's not going to take as much for you. Just keep adding to it. Strengthening something that you do. And I want you to think of that one thing that you can do, and I'm just going to give you literally 48 and a half seconds To talk with your partner, what is that one thing that you commit to doing because you are worth it. You deserve to have even better life than you do. The people that you work with deserve to have the best from you. 45.5 seconds. Talk with your partner. What are you going to do? And go. Oh, I know, so much more you can talk about. I know, aren't these nice? Woo! These are on sale too, only $500. Okay. So folks, again, you are successful because everybody else in this room has helped you become successful because of what they do. And usually at the end of a speech, you give an applause for the speaker, but I think you deserve it more than I do. So what I want you to do is when I say go, I want you to give everybody else in the room a standing ovation. So don't look at me, look at each other. Stand up, huge roar, as loud as you can. Ready? Yes, go! Yes! That's it! Yes! It's you! It's you! Yes! It is you! Yes! Woo! And sit. Wow, it has been an absolute pleasure, folks. I mean, I'm honored to be here. Every time I get a call from DCYF, I say, yes, whatever I can do, I want to come make it happen. Your next fun thing to do is at 10 o'clock, you've got a workshop. Make sure you show up there. I will be around throughout the day. Stop by, say hi, chat with me, whatever. Thank you, everybody. It's been fantastic. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.